Hey, it's me Edsel Ian as Fuentes. So me and my partner Ken will be discussing on Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of macroeconomics. I will be discussing on measuring unemployment. So you better get your notebook and your pen to take down notes. You got your pen and your notebook? Good. You better start listening because it's a very good topic. So our topic is macroeconomic measurement part 1, measuring unemployment. But first, let's start with the key terms. So what is total population? So total population is a number of people inhabiting a country, and under it would be two. We have the WAP and the NWAP. WAP would be the non-institutionalized 15 to 64-year-old civilian, and under the NWAP would be the people under 16, above 64, institutionalized, in jail, or those people who joined the armed forces. So under the WAP would be the labor force and not in the labor force. So under labor force, we have the employed, people have a job, get paid, and people unemployed who does not have a job but is available to work. And those people not in the labor force are those people who does not have a job in the family and who is not available to work. To further enhance our knowledge, we make a flowchart. So in the flowchart, we have the total population, and under the total population would be the NWAP and the WAP, and under the WAP would be the non-labor force and the labor force, and under the labor force would be obviously the unemployed and the employed. In order to find the labor force participation rate, we divide the labor force by the WAP, multiplied it by 100%. Next, the unemployment rate. In order to find the unemployment rate, we divide the number of people unemployed by the number of people in the labor force, multiplied it by 100%. But most people has a mistake. We can't do that to the employment rate. This is wrong. We can't use this. But instead, we use the WAP as our denominator, multiplied by 100%. So still the same, but we just change the labor force by the WAP. And lastly, we have WAP equals labor force plus non-labor force, and the labor force is equal to the sum of the unemployed and employed. To further enhance our knowledge, we have a sample problem. So let's say a hypothetical country Kadia, we have these values. We have the WAP, labor force, and E, and we have this required. So basically, we just directly substitute the values. So in order to find the NLF, we just basically subtract WAP minus the labor force. We got 50 million minus 30 million equals 20 million. Pretty simple, right? Next, in order to find the labor force participation rate, we just divide labor force divided by the WAP, multiplied by 100%. So we got 60%. Next would be the unemployment rate. So in order to find the unemployment rate, we need to find U first. So we just subtract 30 million minus 20 million from LF minus E to find U. So we divide 10 million divided by 30 million times 100%, we got 33.33%. And lastly, to find the employment rate, we just divide E with the working age population and we multiply it by 100%. And we got 40%. In the next video, my partner Kent will be discussing the next chapter, chapter 7, and I hope you will really listen well because it's a very good topic.
Hi, I am Kent Bihag, and today I'm gonna talk about GDP or Gross Domestic Product. So enjoy learning! Remember 3 macroeconomic goals. There's 1. Stable prices, 2. Low unemployment, and 3. High and sustained growth. We're up to the 3rd goal, which is high and sustained growth. The natural question is, the growth of what? The answer is that we want to see the growth of the country's income, the country's real income. But how do we measure it? Well, the country generates income by producing goods and services and selling them. There are actually quite a few ways to look at the country's income, but when it comes to examining the country's growth, we look at the country's gross domestic product or GDP. GDP is the total market value of all final goods and services produced in a given period of time within a country's borders. Think carefully about what this definition does and does not include is part of the country's economy or income. For example, if there's a US company located abroad producing products and services, that does not account as part of the country's GDP. But if there's a foreign company located inside the country producing products and services, then that accounts as part of the country's GDP. What about the final goods and services? The value of the final goods and services, that is those items purchased by the ultimate consumer, accounted in the GDP. The value of intermediate goods that will be used as part of something else before getting to the hands of the final consumer are not accounted. Think of it this way. If you count the value of wheat, and then the value of the flour made from that wheat, and then the value of the bread that was made from the flour, and that was made from the wheat, you've counted the value of the wheat 3 times. The term total market value means the total value at that time period. That's the nominal value of the final goods and services. Now that we know the definition of GDP, how do we actually measure it? Do we really need to know all the final goods and services being produced in today's market price for each so that we can find the total value? There's an easier way for us to work with GDP, and that is the expenditure approach, and there's also referred to as the income approach. With the expenditure approach, we just think about what happens to all goods and services to be produced. Somebody has to buy all these stuffs, right? Well, who buys the goods and services that get produced? The goods and services are purchased by the 4 sectors of the economy. 1. The household or the consumer sector. This represents the single largest sector. 2. The business sector. Businesses purchase capital goods such as machines and machinery equipments, constituting real investment. 3. The government sector. The government purchases goods and services so that it can function and provide its services. 4. The foreign sector. Foreigners purchases certain amount of our products and services, and we call these exports. Of course, we also purchase from other countries. What we buy from the rest of the world is our imports. We are interested in knowing on net what others buy from us, so we look at the net exports to the foreign sector, or exports minus the imports. Altogether, GDP is the sum of all the expenditures made by the 4 sectors of the economy. Consumption by the household sector, investment by the business sector, government spending by the government sector, and net exports to the foreign sector. In short, GDP equals consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports, or GDP is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX.